So, I wanted to talk about some things I really don't like about one of my favorite games of all time. And you may be thinking, wait, what? You just said this is one of your favorite games of all time. Why are you talking about some of the negatives? And that's to prove a point that, yeah, I love these games, but that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge a lot of the flaws that they have. And that sometimes, even if I really love a game, it doesn't make it a good game, unfortunately. And as much as it sucks to say, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Let me just rip that band-aid off. It fucking sucks to say that. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are easily some of my favorite games of all time. They rank second on a list of my favorite games, only behind Kirby's Return to Dreamland. And it's where I found my favorite Pokemon. It's where a lot of my time growing up was in that game. So having to look at it straight up and acknowledge the flaws, yeah, it can sting a bit, but it also makes it to where I'm able to be more open and honest easily, and to where I'm not being hypocritical by refusing to look at flaws of games that I do enjoy and refusing to look at positives of games that I don't. And of course, as I said before, I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Just because they're incredibly flawed does not mean I don't love them. They had so much care put into them, which makes the oversights honestly a bit shocking. And a lot of it comes down to the whole faithful remake aspect, which I'm going to say Fire Red and Leaf Green aren't good either. They're rehashed, not as fucked up versions of Kanto. And I'm sorry, but Kanto is not a good region. It has many of the same issues with a really poor stat Pokemon that don't do anything in the main, or that don't have any real use in battle. It has many of the same issues with the terrible level curve. It mostly just has better places to train because the game isn't stretched out as long. And that's really the only thing that Kanto has going for it. However, now let's talk about the bad things about the Johto region. As I just said, some of the things that it has in common with Kanto is a lot of Johto Pokemon just cannot do well in battle. Whether it be some Pokemon that have actual potential but get snubbed by something, like Sneasel in Crystal where it's available before the 8th gym, having to deal with no physical special split, so both of its stabs come off its 35 base special attack and not its 95 base attack. Or how in Gold and Silver and then Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it's only after you beat Blue and unlock Red. It's just, those issues are really frustrating because you want to be able to use the new Pokemon. And I get that some are more powerful than others and need to be held back, but that shouldn't be until the literal last fight of the game. And that's one of the most frustrating parts, especially because we had some Pokemon be moved to earlier areas for Crystal. We had Phanpy being moved above, like, throughout right below the... Sorry. I'm trying to explain it, but I don't really know how to describe the area. It's like below Blackthorn City, above the route west of New Bark Town. But yeah, they added Phanpy there. They added Teddiursa in Dark Cave. And it just, yeah. Or they added Sneasel and Ice Path, as I was talking about a few seconds ago. And it, even though Sneasel didn't end up doing great anyway because of its circumstances, that doesn't mean that it's not appreciated. I think that these Pokemon should be available, which is one of the reasons why I very much appreciate things like the Safari Zone giving earlier access to Pokemon like Murkrow, to Pokemon like Larvitar. Hell, that's how Tyranitar became one of my favorite Pokemon. And then the entirety of the area west of Cianwood was such a good decision for something to add. Having the Safari Zone back in general, but even just the Cliff Cave area, adding Steelix as a wild encounter and not just a trade. So that's one trade evolution that you actually can get. Or being able to encounter Mischievous there. That is amazing. I love it. But it sucks that many of these Pokemon still just aren't going to be that useful because, let's be honest, a lot of them still don't have the stats. And while it is great that they're available earlier, if you're doing nothing earlier, you're still doing nothing. Which is unfortunate, mostly because many of the evolution items are locked to post-game. Now, granted, one of the biggest ones that everyone knows about is the shiny stone for Togetic and Togekiss. And many people have the perception in memory that it is only available after getting Rock Climb, which is a falsehood that many don't even know about. You can get it at, I forget which days, at the Pokeathlon after the SSN. But that still isn't great. That's still post-game. And Kanto in Gold, Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, it's really just a boss rush. And that's all it really is. I'm sorry, but Kanto really doesn't do much to help the Johto games, and if anything, I think it harms it more, especially because in Heart Gold and Soul Silver even, there's still Pokemon locked to the post-game region that are native to the main region for some reason. Most notably, Houndour, and if you don't get it from the Primo Egg, which you can guarantee, but Slugma. And it's just yeah, granted, no, very few people, if anyone, were going to use Slugma either way. But Houndour is a Pokemon that several people absolutely love. And hundreds of thousands would use it on a team if it was available earlier. And so many of the decisions of where to put Pokemon just don't work out well. Then, I know I've talked about some evolutions being available earlier and some later, but some of the ones that truly frustrate me the most are, what's it called? Rhyperior, Electivire, and Magmortar, just because those ones are actually post-Rock Climb. You cannot get them from the Pokeathlon Dome, at least as far as I'm aware. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And even with the ones that, let's say, require the Dusk Stone for Mismagius and for Honchkrow, or if you want to get a Razor Fang or a Razor Claw, as much as I do enjoy occasionally playing the Pokeathlon stuff, I don't think that it should be forced in order for you to be able to evolve these Pokemon. They were given evolutions for a reason, and it sucks that you can't get them within the main game. Especially because it really dents a lot of... I don't want to get cheesy, so I'm sorry if I am, but much of the goal of Pokemon when it was made was for people to form some sort of bond with these fictional creatures. And if they can never be used realistically because they can never be at a good enough state of power, then people aren't going to be able to form those bonds, especially not as strongly. So having these things pushed so far back sucks. And don't get me wrong, I think that in some cases, some things should be pushed back, but that doesn't mean so much has to be. Like, did you know that in the original Gold and Silver, since there is no Pokeathlon Dome, the only ways you could get the Leaf, Fire, Thunder, and Water Stones before beating Johto was a handful of random Pokegear calls. That was the only way you could get these evolution stones. And the calls were completely random unless you knew how to exploit the daylight saving time glitch. Which, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have to know about a glitch in order to get these things. It doesn't make the gameplay more enjoyable. It doesn't make it more interactive. And that's another issue that I have with this. Like, Heart Gold and Soul Silver added so many more seemingly interactive things. Notably, as I was talking about the Pokeathlon Dome, and another big point, the Battle Frontier. And those interactions are great. But while I have those two there, let me just introduce Voltorb Flip. Absolute fucking hell. And why am I bringing Voltorb Flip into this? Because all three have one similarity, that many things are locked to those interactive games that just... they should not be locked to only that. I understand having them there as options if you want to get multiple of something. That I do support. Like, I like having the Earthquake TM at the Battle Frontier. But it just does not work well when you have something that's only available there. Because Game Freak did not, especially with the Battle Frontier, they did not balance everything to the point of tedium not being an issue. And then Voltorb Flip, like I said a few seconds ago, is just absolute hell in every way. Like, I'm sorry, but you should not need a full-on online calculator in order to reliably play a game, or in order to reliably play a gambling game and get TMs that are only available in the main game by doing that. It's not having them available anywhere else really just ruins so many Pokemon because they don't have any access to good enough moves due to those restrictions. So unless you want to go through absolute hell, it's better off to just not use those Pokemon. Which sucks. That's, like, it's the same thing that I was bringing up with a lot of the blocked off evolutions earlier, except it affects even more Pokemon because it now you can't just use, or sorry, let me rephrase that. Now, it's not just that you can't use bad Pokemon, but you can't use good Pokemon if they don't learn the good moves now. And if Voltorb Flip actually had a method to it, if it wasn't just RNG, and if it was something that you wouldn't need an online calculator for, that you could actually do the math for and guarantee an outcome every time, except it eventually just falling down to random chance without a calculator, that would be amazing. Like, that's the kind of interactivity we need. That is what would make that, or that is what would make Voltorb Flip enjoyable, because if someone eventually cracks the code, yeah, they're going to be unstoppable, but that's part of it. It's like with the slot machines in the first 4 generations and the Japanese versions of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Because, yeah, granted, there was some RNG to it, but people eventually did crack the code and were able to solve it to find out how to get as many coins as they needed for whatever TMs or Pokemon they were buying. And the restriction to not only not be able to do that, but the bigger part even is you're not even able to buy coins like you were in the other games. If you could buy coins, then you could get those TMs after just beating a ton of trainers and getting a ton of money. But it's not, you can't even do that anymore, which I quite frankly find ridiculous, because that's not even gambling. That's just buying something and then trading what you bought for something else. It's so frustrating, man. I mean, I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I love that they have some of the best sprites from early Pokemon. I love that the shinies are the most vibrant that they've ever been, in my opinion, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Even more vibrant than the Black and White and Black and White 2 sprites for shinies. I love the atmosphere that Johto brings. I love all the different areas that we have, the variety in them. It all feels so encompassing and swallows me in until we get to the issues with the level curve, with so many Pokemon being held back from their full potential, either through lack of move pool, lack of ability to learn lack of ability to obtain the moves that they would need, lack of ability to get them to the final form because of some arbitrary way of holding them back for some fucking reason. And I wish I could say Heart Gold and Soul Silver is a perfect game. I wish that I could say these games are the best in the series. But unfortunately, as much as I'm biased to them, as much as I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they have several flaws and they don't do much to fix the issues that were present in the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal, as pretty much all the Pokemon remakes have done, unfortunately. And as I've said multiple times in this video, it sucks. It sucks that I have to admit a game that I absolutely love is a bad game. But I've come to terms with it, and I'm just gonna keep enjoying it, even though if I look at it objectively and try to throw my bias away, it is a rather bad game. But I can't help but love it, I'm going to continue to love it. Because for every level curve, for every Voltorb flip, for every evolution lock, for every bullshit Pokemon not being available, we have a character design like Morty, we have a Pokemon like Tyranitar, we have an area like Ice Path or Bell Tower, we have the atmosphere of the Whirl Islands. For every bad thing, there's a good thing. But that's just not enough to balance out when the bad things affect the gameplay so much more, and the good things are mostly just designs and atmosphere that don't affect it nearly, or that don't affect gameplay nearly as much. So, thank you guys for listening to my rant about some of my favorite games of all time and some of the most frustrating things about those games. Sorry I ramble on for too long. I'm just very fucking passionate about this. And I ramble a lot when I'm passionate about something because I'm autistic and I go way too into depth about it. But that's what some people enjoy about my content. That's what some people don't like about my content, so they don't watch. And I hope I'll see you guys in another video. So, see ya.